Thank you very much. Our next speaker on this is Sandor Ligatfolvi, a resident of City of Niagara Falls. Sandor, please come forward.
Chair, has the committee been informed that my slide deck has been redacted?
I guess you've just told the committee that it's been redacted, so certainly.
Very well. So let's begin. Now we're going to run into a bit of the same problem we ran into last time. The issue this time is, how am I supposed to tell the story without using the names of the people who are in the story? You're not going to know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about, but the good news is you all have a copy of these comments in your inbox. So as I proceed through these comments, I will do so knowing that you can reference the specifics in your inbox. Now, given that the slide deck was heavily redacted, over a dozen slides were deleted by the clerk. Now, the justification for that was provided to me, and I don't have time to get over it. If it's going to eat into my time, then I'll just proceed as is. But if possible, it would be wonderful to have the committee receive some explanation about, and if possibly, a citation to the procedural bylaw that permits it, so that I can better accept the decision. It's hard to accept a decision that appears arbitrary, but if it's in the bylaws, of course I will accept it. So maybe we can address that later. Maybe we can address it first. I'll leave that to you, Chair.
You have 9 minutes.
Well, good morning again. At the same moment that one problem has been solved, that being making the DEIC chair a regional councillor, at the same moment that one problem has been solved and one risk has been mitigated, another risk opens up and more problems may lay ahead by promising action to activists. Now, Chair, through you, I'll ask the clerk to just jump right ahead to the last slide, please. And we can leave that up on screen during my comments. Action tables promise to be more action-oriented with increased collaboration, wider scope, and more flexibility. Action tables are described as community-based and supported through the region in collaboration with the City of St. Catharines. So how have things been going in St. Catharines? CBC headline, St. Catharines Anti-Racism Committee wants Jeff Dunham comedy show canceled. In the story, CBC News quotes, who was chair of the committee. He makes a variety of defamatory statements about Jeff Dunham in an effort to interfere with the income of the entertainer and the business of the Performing Arts Center. Thankfully, Mayor Sendzik spoke in favor of artistic license and council voted against the recommendation. Then what happened? September 14th, CBC headline, St. Catharines Anti-Racism Committee members resign, citing lack of support from council. The city declining to cancel a comedy show was cited as the breaking point. Headline, it was like they didn't respect our lived experience, said, who was quoted in the media and is pictured here. Niagara This Week reported St. Catharines Advisory Committee members want action. Yes, they are activists, and activists want action. The region's action tables will collaborate with St. Catharines, and St. Catharines advisory committees ended in disarray. Notably, the final straw was the city not interfering with freedom of expression. The committee made a recommendation that is impossible by asking the entertainment venue to break its contract for a nearly sold-out performance. So who are these activists? The committee advisor who delegated in St. Catharines to cancel the comedy show was communist, name redacted. In an interaction last year regarding the region's proposed bylaws, I told this individual that I would, despite our differences, defend his right to delegate. He responded, I would not defend yours. I'm a communist, not a liberal. In 2019, this individual...
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but this, I'm struggling to see the connection between this and the establishment of this committee as to what we're speaking to.
The delegate has been requested earlier via the clerk to be putting the commentary towards the report. And I happen to believe that you're correct. It's wandering a bit. So, sir, the privilege of being a delegate is to be talking about a particular report. So may I suggest strongly that you focus in on that?
Action tables are described as community-based and in support with their collaboration with the City of St. Catharines. How have things been going in St. Catharines? I'm describing less than 6 to 8 months ago what took place in St. Catharines. How is that not connected? Moreover, as I build a verbal essay in front of you, I go point by point by point, and then you'll hear my thesis. Is that acceptable?
Continue, sir, but focus on the report, please.
The individual told me, I would not defend your right to delegate because, quote, I'm a communist, not a liberal. In 2019, this individual delegated in favor of joining the coalition of inclusive municipalities, which led to the action plan and the creation of advisory committees, if that helps clarify. 2 individuals who were on the advisory committees in St. Catharines ran for provincial office in the Communist Party, which did not support their views nor candidacy, yet municipal committees have served to platform their demands upon the public. In 2021, then chair of the LGBTQ Advisory Committee stood with then Mayor Walter Sendzik to unveil the St. Catharines Pride Crosswalk. This, you're reading along with me, I assume, in my redacted remarks, so you know who I'm referring to, said,
Point of order. That's actually the point. We can actually identify who the delegate is speaking about, and I think that still is potentially a legal issue for us giving the delegate a platform.
So we had a discussion earlier about this, and so how can I say this? You know, you're trying to bring information to us this morning about the changes that are going on with the DEI committee, correct?
and the establishment of action tables, correct.
Okay, so is there any possibility that you can actually focus in on that as opposed to providing critique of those that have preceded? I'm just curious.
I've made a certain number of decisions in how I've structured this presentation. Those decisions have caused a little bit of friction between the role of the delegate and the role of the chair and the clerk, for example. That's not a problem. I respect and appreciate that. Well, I mean, I have some, right, I'm trying to say I appreciate and respect that everyone has their limits and expectations and fiduciary duties. So yes, I'm going to endeavor to inform the committee in best my way. Now, why would legal need to be involved?
I'm going to stop this at this point. And by the way, so I want this to be really clear, okay? My role as the chair of this committee is to make sure that the delegates that come in front of us are focusing in on the reports that are in front of us, okay? I don't have any choice in that. Actually, it was pointed out earlier that I have zero to do other than manage this particular meeting. And by the way, I absolutely 100% admire delegates that come in front of us to go and give us information that we need in making a decision, okay? My preference is, sir, is that you focus in on the information you wish for us to understand with this particular report. You're not gaining anything by going on the essay route that you're going. Can I suggest strongly that you cut to the chase and try and give us the information that you really want to give to us? That would be my preference. If you're not going to do that, then I will draw your delegation to a close. So if you wouldn't mind, please go down that route. I want to give you, because you have important information
You're in possession
on this
of my full
that
remarks.
I think. So
You're
okay.
in possession of my full remarks. Have you had a chance to review them since yesterday?
I've looked at everything that's come through, sir. So
Yes. So you know what I'm getting at, and you know what I'm about to say, and there's no surprises in front of you at all, correct?
So please get to that point so that the audience, so that the people online,
Listen,
so
thank
this
you.
council can
Yes.
understand that. So that would be my preference, sir.
The action tables are being established by the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion and Advisory Committee. The action tables promise activists action. Who are these activists? Who are these activists? Is anyone here going to ask that? Who are these activists? What do they believe? What are their values? Can I please inform you, after over a year of research, what their values are? Not to insult them, not to defame them. Legal doesn't need to get involved. It's their own public statements made at the time that they were municipal advisors. Okay? So would you like to find out that a municipal advisor who inaugurated the Pride Crosswalk and said it was a go-forward promise to the city of St. Catharines and the broader community as a whole. Would you like to know that that same advisor authored a piece in a socialist magazine called Spring,
So
which said,
I'm going to draw you back. Please go to the report. Your point that I heard you just make is that was about activists. So
yes,
please focus back to the
would you
report
like
again.
yes, and this activist says that, quote, there can be no true liberation from cis-hetero patriarchal oppression or other forms of oppression without the elimination of capitalism. In short, the Municipal Advisory Committee is serving to platform people who say elimination of capitalism. Okay? Point made. Queer liberation, not rainbow capitalism, means that painting a rainbow on the road was never good enough, according to the advisor's article in a socialist magazine called Spring. The advisor said that the article was, quote, the ethos we need for the pursuit of our liberation. We should learn from Marxist feminism and adopt Marxist principles into queer theory, said the municipal advisor at the time they were a municipal advisor. This is the advocate who stood with the mayor to inaugurate the Pride Crosswalk, and a few months later, he said the quiet part of intersectionality out loud in the form of revolutionary neo-Marxist thought, quote,
Mr. Ligafalvi, I'm going to give a temporary recess at this point. You're going to be sitting at about 6 minutes at your presentation, and we'll come back to you in a few moments, okay? Thank you. Speaker on this is Sandor Ligafalvi. Speaker on this is Sandor Ligafalvi, resident
for sitting on the committee.
is earlier. We're going to
Commenting on a
You see,
report
there has
that
been a
has
debate
membership,
today, an
composition,
issue about whether
roles
or
and
not it should be a
responsibilities,
public member
working
in the chair
groups,
seat
everything that he's talking about. I understand he's going in
council
probably
member.
too far
I-
in depth on this. But I have some sympathy for what he's saying, so I think I don't want to shut this man down, but I don't want him to get into such depth. So I let you walk the fine line, but that's my position on this.
Yeah, thank you. And in fact, through to you, sir, I think there's some points that are being made here that are certainly worthwhile. So, and it's important information for our committee. So, and my preference for the delegate is to make sure that he's providing that to us, as opposed to getting into individual or into discussions that really aren't appropriate within it. So,
I couldn't agree
is that
more.
okay
Thank
with
you.
you?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please go ahead. We're gonna delay your timing for 1 minute and then start you back up. Okay. So please go ahead.
Right. So we're talking relevancy. The action tables and the DEIC are committed to an intersectionality lens. What is intersectionality? Have you asked yourself that question? Well, perhaps the advocate who stood at the Pride Crosswalk and explained, as I write here, the advocate who stood with the mayor at the inaugurate the Pride Crosswalk a few months later said the quiet part of intersectionality out loud in the form of revolutionary neo-Marxist thought, quote, we should reject corporations and cops, support anti-capitalism and abolition, and build movements that combine black liberation, women's liberation, and queer liberation, and like Marsha P. Johnson, be prepared to throw bricks when the time comes, said the municipal advisor at the time of being a municipal advisor. 1 year later, the advisor authored his resignation letter. In it, he said, and this is the lesson I was hoping to bring to the committee, in it, he said, in hindsight, the installation of the crosswalk was an incredibly easy and uncontroversial project. The real test of the city's allyship is how they respond when what's being recommended is not easy. No, activists want action, and the Rainbow Road was the easy part. They want action that is truly much more revolutionary than canceling a comedy show. Similar but different fiascos are coming to the region in coming years as it writes a check it can't cash in promising action to activists.
Chair, is any of this in the report?
Use this point of order.
Sorry, Chair Foster, point of order. I don't see any of this in the report. And I'm struggling to see the connection to this continuous, the same kind of dialogue that we've been asking to avoid. We welcome every delegate, and I'm always happy to hear from delegates. But I would like the point in how this relates to what is in the report, instead of just a historical reference of people's actions and commentary through social media, because that goes both ways.
So the delegate has 2.5 minutes in order to provide that connection for us. So thank you.
It seems that every time I make a good point, I get interrupted. The good point I was just making is that the municipal advisor who was platformed by the municipal institution turns out to be a Marxist. Is that of interest to anyone? Is that a pejorative or a descriptor? Self-described Marxist. It's not me attributing it to him and reading his mind and reading the tea leaves. His articles, his views, I'm quoting to you. Are you Marxists as well? Perhaps that's a little too rhetorical. But let me get through this. Niagara Region's DEI Advisory Committee's first public member was removed from committee in December of 2021 after a tweet she says was misconstrued.
Point of order, we're talking about specific individuals again. My other issue with this is that we're talking about stuff that has happened in the past. We're not talking about how membership might be contemplated for the committee at this point.
So please focus in to the report and your recommendations within that, please.
First chair, removed. Second chair, shall I read? Like, how are we supposed to, as a committee, assess the viability of the DIC and the establishment of action tables without reflecting on what took place less than 12 months ago? These people were platformed by the region. You're concerned about platforming me. I'm not on any of your printed documentation.
So now
right?
we're getting into...
Okay.
Okay. Please go to your conclusion now, and I will give you a minute to do that, please.
You see, there has been a debate today, an issue about whether or not it should be a public member in the chair seat or a committee or a council member. I agree that it should be a council member. I'm in favor of the changes to the report, if that helps clarify. Okay, I'm in favor of the changes to the report because of what happened last year. Maybe you already know about it. Maybe you already know about it. Maybe the public doesn't know about it. That's fine. That's fine. Because last year, the DIC chair called up a Niagara Falls councillor and introduced themselves as DEIC chair. My recommendation is it should be explicitly forbidden. You're not an ambassador by being on a committee member, you're an advisor. The goal and purpose of the committee includes providing a safe place for all people to voice their opinions. If only that has remained true, members of the committee targeted members of the community, myself included, with defamations and insults for voicing an opinion. Members of the committee whom the regional municipality have been platforming have been targeting members of the community with insults and defamations. What's the most appropriate way for me to inform you about that detail, sir? It's not here in committee, clearly. Yeah. The new terms of reference says that the committee members are responsible for being a positive...
So, Mr. Ligafalvi, your time has come to a conclusion. Are there any questions for the delegation at this point? Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Thank you, Sandor, for your presentation. Again, I'm coming to the recommendations you have at the end, because you touched on it a little bit. Number 1 and 2, that's up on the board. Number 1 and 2 makes sense. Number 3, could you explain that one? Make the councillor responsible for the conduct of the committee members, so that there's 2 councillors on that board, am I not? Am I correct? Is that what you mean?
I'll be happy to explain. Thank you.
Please.
Through you, Chair. Thank you for the question. The new committee structure puts the public member in the seat of vice chair and a councillor in the seat of chair. This is a welcome change that partially resolves some past issues from reoccurring, but what remains as an opportunity for improvement is that the committee chair should be made responsible for the conduct of committee members, because public members can lash out and have lashed out in ways that elected members may wish they could, but cannot due to their obligations. New rules such as the Public Member Code of Conduct are clearly attempting to provide greater oversight, but public members can come and go. My suggestion is, if there is an issue with the public members' behavior, that the committee chair must be able to demonstrate that they took steps to curtail it, or they will be seen as complicit with it. We cannot have it that professional staff and elected representatives play clean while the public members are given a municipal platform from which they play dirty.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And through you, Chair, still, number 4 you've got up there. Public members may not speak on behalf of the committee. I understand that from the police board that I was on, you were not allowed to speak on behalf of the police board. But us as elected officials here can speak. We walk a fine line on that within reason. We can't act like we are talking for the region on things, but we're regional councillors. Can you explain that one, your thoughts on that one? Public members are advisors to the regions and not ambassadors of the region. I have a problem with curtailing people on a committee from saying some comments within reason. It's a line you walk.
Councillor Gale, you've asked the question, so we're good.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
So as some of my examples demonstrate, in the past, we have members of the advisory committees whom seem to use it like the shiny badge of a sheriff's deputy as a clout or access. I'm a member of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. How are you? Let me engage in activism completely unrelated to my duties. If that's clear. Therefore, that should be completely disallowed. You are an advisor to the region, and your views are both welcome, and the region is interested in those views. But that does not mean that the region has endorsed you. That does not mean the region has endorsed you. You are merely an advisor to the committee. Advisors, not ambassadors, and that no endorsement of the committee is implied by membership. The word representatives, this is citing from the report, the word representatives may be misleading as it implies special status has been granted to advisors by virtue of the role in the committee. It must be clear that while the region is open to and interested in their views, it's not deputizing them to engage in activism on the region's behalf unless explicitly authorized.
Okay.
I think that clarifies that for you.
Thank you. And the last one, through you, Chair. Number 5, I disagree with this one. Public members who choose to run for election must resign from the committee. I mean, I ran for the province and I didn't have to resign from here. You just can't bring your politics into that meeting on that. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, I actually don't have, I think this is an important point of debate in order for us to take a look at what has taken place recently and take a look at what could take place in the future. What I've observed is that the municipal advisory committees serves as, in a way, free publicity. And there's a bit of a conflict of interest between, if you're on the committee, like we had a previous chair of the advisory committee who made a bunch of statements and it got a bunch of attention while saying, I'm running for council. So I agree that I don't have a strong opinion on that. My view of his recommendations is these are a starting point for the committee, staff, and others to improve. There's already been improvements in this report. One of the improvements is that the chair is now a council member, and another one of the improvements is that it says that members must be respectful, must be positive representatives of the region. That's another welcome change. So the purpose of my recommendations has been to be a starting point of debate on all of these points, and therefore I am so grateful for the opportunity to have spoken. I apologize
I'm not done
if my
yet.
frustration has...
I'm not done yet.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Gale.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Again, my last question is going to be, and if you agree with me on this, there was a comment made that you were looking at the past, and we shouldn't look at the past. I disagree. We learn from the Burgoyne Bridge. We learn the wastewater issues. We learn from people that are put on boards. We learn from councillors that have gone astray.
Now, Councillor Gale, no disrespect, but
Yep.
can you please ask the question? This is not a time to
I
be
get you.
editorializing, okay?
I understand.
So-
My question is, do you agree with my comment on that we have to look at the past at the board makeup on this?
Thank you so much for the question, and through you, Chair. Absolutely. The intention behind what I've produced here today is that. Now, this is a municipal committee, and so I'll concede that the way I structured this may not have been the best suited method to accomplish those goals. Nevertheless, I think I've accomplished the goal of planting the seed of the question. What took place last year? I spent all the time, for the past year, I've been collecting information. And a lot of that information I processed into this presentation and into this slide deck. And quite a bit of information was left out. And so the question, I guess, remains now is, what's the appropriate way for me to fully inform so that we don't have to worry about, are we platforming my false claims? Are we platforming this and that? Okay, I understand the concern, and I understand and I appreciate that there's openness, and I look forward to pursuing whatever future openness may take place so that my diligent, careful, and respectful efforts are not in vain.
Okay, so thank you for that. And Mr. Chair, compliment to you. You're doing a good job. Thanks.
Yes, thank
I don't see any other questions for you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
you, Chair. And if I may, I apologize if my frustration has been an issue. There's a lot of improvising here, and so thank you.
If I can offer some suggestion to you in the future, because you've been in front of us a few times,
Yes.
you actually bring very good information for us to talk about.
Thank you.
And in fact, I suspect what will happen when we get into debate, some of these items definitely will be in for discussion.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Our next delegate this morning is Salo Wazirudin, the Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association. For his delegation, Salo, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Saleh Waziruddin, again from the Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association. As my organization has advocated before and in other parts of Niagara, there need to be separate anti-racism and 2S LGBTQIA+ advisory committees. Also, the chair of these committees, including the DEI committee, should not be a councillor, but a resident who is not a municipal official. I do agree with the report with not having representatives of other advisory committees on the DEI advisory committee. As the staff report says, and we've seen it also in St. Catharines, this is something that sounds good on paper, but doesn't actually work out that way in practice. There are two main reasons given in the report for not having separate committees. One is the issue of which committee to send things to. That's an easy one to fix, and it's been done in St. Catharines. Send racism to anti-racism, 2S LGBTQIA+, to 2S LGBTQIA+. And for the already existing committees, accessibility issues to accessibility, women's issues to the Women's Advisory Committee, and everything else to DEI. The same issue, same solution applies to the legally required Accessibility Advisory Committee and